All right, a few weeks ago, something happened in Washington that could affect what you pay for a home here in San Diego. It's the biggest housing law Congress has passed in over 30 years. And most people have no idea it happened. You may have seen a headline about it, something like Congress bans big investors from buying homes. And maybe you thought, finally, some good news. But here's the thing. What the headline says and what the law actually does are two very different things. And if you're thinking about buying or selling a home in San Diego, Chula Vista, or La Mesa in the next year or two, there are a few parts of this you generally need to understand. So today, I'm going to break it down in plain English. What actually changed, what didn't, and what it realistically means for you. If we've never met, I'm Corey Rills. I've been helping buyers and sellers with their real estate goals for more than 12 years now. And almost 5 years ago, my family and I picked up from Los Angeles and moved to Chula Vista in San Diego. My office is now with Coldwell Banker Realty in La Mesa, so I'm tracking what happens across San Diego County every single week. And I want to be upfront about something. I'm not here to tell you this law is going to fix everything. It won't. But there's some real things in here worth knowing about, and there's a lot of misinformation floating around. So let's just walk through it honestly. The headline everyone saw. So let's start with the part everyone's talking about. The new law says that large investment companies can no longer buy up single-family homes. And I understand why that got everyone's attention. If you've been shopping for a home in Chula Vista or anywhere in San Diego over the last few years, you've probably had this experience. You find a house, you love it, you write an offer, and you lose it to a company you've never even heard of that pay cash and never even walked through the property. That's frustrating. It feels like you're competing against someone who isn't even playing the same game. So when people heard Congress was doing something new about it, it felt like a win. And in some ways it is. But here's what most of the coverage left out. 3 things headlines got wrong. There are 3 things about this that I really want you to understand because they changed the picture significantly. First, it hasn't started yet. The law became official on July 11th, but the part about investors not being able to buy homes doesn't actually take effect until January 7th, 2027. That's about 6 months from now. So if you're looking at homes today, nothing has changed yet. Second, companies don't have to sell what they already own. A lot of people assume that these big companies would have to unload thousands of homes back on the market. That's not what the law says. Anything they bought before this takes effect, they keep. So don't expect a wave of new inventory suddenly hitting the market. Third, this only applies to really big companies. We're talking about entities that own 350 homes or more. So if your neighbor owns 2 rental properties, this doesn't affect them at all. Local investors, small landlords, people buying a second home, completely unaffected. This is aimed at massive Wall Street firms buying hundreds of houses at a time. So is this a good thing? I think it is, genuinely, but it's a slow, gradual thing, not an overnight change. And I'd rather tell you honestly than let you make decisions based on the headline. The part that actually affects veterans. Now here's the section that I got genuinely excited about. And if you watch my last 2 videos about VA loans, this is gonna sound familiar. Buried in this law are 3 separate sections specifically about veterans. And they all address the exact same problem that I've been talking about for weeks. Too many veterans don't know what their benefit actually is. So here's what the new law now actually requires. When you apply for a mortgage, the application itself has to tell you if you might qualify for a VA loan. That sounds small, but it isn't, because I have sat across from veterans who use an FHA loan or a conventional loan to buy their home, paying mortgage insurance every single month, who had no idea that they could have used their VA benefit instead and paid nothing. Nobody told them. Now the paperwork has to tell them. The law also requires FHA disclosures to include a comparison so veterans can see side by side what a VA loan would actually cost versus an FHA mortgage. Now, that's a real change. That's money staying in veterans' pockets. And if you're watching this and you served, this is your reminder to actually check what your benefit looks like before signing anything. What this means for San Diego specifically. Now let's bring this home, my near and dear home. Because here's something interesting. San Diego's own congressman, Scott Peters, was one of the people who helped write parts of this law. He brought local housing experts together right here in San Diego to talk about it. And when they did, they made a point that I think is worth sharing. San Diego is already ahead on a lot of this. We've already streamlined our permitting. We've already changed our zoning. We've already been building. A lot of what this law does is give the rest of the country incentives to catch up to where we've already been. So what does this mean for you practically? Honestly, the direct local impact in short term is probably modest. Local experts have said as much. But there are two things worth watching. One, less competition from corporate buyers in entry-level prices ranges starting next year. That's where a lot of Chula Vista, East County buyers are shopping. Two, expanded funding for affordable housing construction, which over time means more supply, and more buyers is the only thing that actually solves affordability long term. Now, here's some context on why that matters. Right now, only about 13% of San Diego households can afford a median price home. 13%. That's the problem this law is trying to chip away at. It won't fix it this year, but it's movement in the right direction. So, what should you actually do? All right, so here's the practical part. What do you do with all of this? Well, if you're a buyer, don't wait for this law to make home prices cheaper. That's not how this works. The changes here are gradual and mostly indirect. So if you're financially ready to buy now, this law isn't a reason to pause. If anything, the veteran disclosure changes are a reminder to make sure you're using the best loan program available to you before you commit to anything. Now, if you're a seller, nothing about this law changes your situation in the short term. Your buyer pool, your pricing strategy, your timeline, all the same. The one thing worth knowing is that starting January 2027, you'll likely have slightly fewer institutional cash buyers in certain price ranges. For most sellers in Chula Vista, La Mesa, that's not meaningful change. If you're a veteran, this one's for you. Go find out what your VA benefit actually looks like today, whether you've used it before or never touched it. The federal government just passed a law essentially saying too many of you don't know what you're entitled to, so don't be one of them. The bigger lesson here, I want to leave you with something that goes beyond this specific law. Real estate is full of headlines, and headlines are designed to get your attention, not give you the full picture. Quote, Congress bans investors from buying homes, unquote. It's technically true, but it leaves out that it doesn't start for 6 months, that existing homes are untouched, and that it only applies to the biggest players, not a small distinction. That's the difference between making a good decision and a bad one. So whenever you see a big real estate headline, whether it's about legislation, interest rates, or the market crashing, ask what it actually means for your specific situation. Because national news and your kitchen table are two very different things. So if you remember nothing else today, remember these three things. First, a major housing law passed, but the investor restrictions don't start until January 2027, and existing corporate-owned homes aren't going anywhere. Second, there are real protections in here for veterans that could save you thousands, but only if you actually go look at your benefit. Third, don't let a headline drive your decision this big. Look at your own numbers, your own timeline, and your own situation. If you want help figuring out what any of this means for you, specifically, whether you're buying, selling, or just trying to understand where you stand, I'm happy to talk it through. You can call or text me directly at 858-832-9025, or use the link in the description to grab a time that works for you. Even if you're just in the thinking about it stage, I'm always glad to point you in the right direction. And if you missed my last two videos on VA loans, I'll link them here. They pair really well with what we covered today. Thank you for watching. I'm Corey Reels, your local San Diego realtor, and I'll see you in the next video.